Welcome back. This is our WKU-O segment. We'd like to thank WKU-O for underwriting our segment today. With us is Larry Owens and George Rasmussen, and we're going to talk about international study opportunities through WKU-O. Hello and welcome to our show.
Hi, thank you.
Hi. Now, Larry, we've been on before talking about the social work field, but today we have a sidekick with you, George, and we're going to talk about international studies. And this is something that I've never been a part of, so I'm excited to hear what WKU is doing. And I'm aware that you all were involved with a trip to Beijing, China.
Yes.
Can you give us an overview of that trip and tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah. Well, back in July, we had 43 faculty members, students, and community people go to Beijing for 3 weeks. And it was a Chinese summer camp, culture and language summer camp. So we took courses in various parts of Chinese culture, language. We did a number of field trips to the Great Wall and the Temple of Heaven and some other places there in Beijing. But it was just a tremendous opportunity to learn about this very rich culture of China. And it was just a tremendous opportunity for all of us.
Were the students, had any of the students ever traveled abroad before, or was this their first trip?
A few of them had, but there were quite a few people who had never traveled before outside the country. So in addition to it being just a wonderful opportunity for international travel, but also being able to see China and Beijing.
That is so neat. Of course, I have never traveled outside the United States, so this was a very interesting topic to me.
Yeah.
Now, George, can you tell me, had you studied up on China any, and were your impressions once you got there any different, or what were your impressions?
I had only studied China, say, from afar in a very general sense, and I think the biggest impression was that it was Beijing and some of the other cities we visited were much more modern than you would stereotypically have expected. But with that modernness, there was such a range. On the streets, you might have a three-wheel bicycle carrying 10 feet of material on the back of it, vying for the same space as a brand new tour bus from Germany.
Oh, wow. And did they have any fear in doing that, or was it,
The Chinese are very friendly people and seem to be very polite. If you get a quarter inch of your car or vehicle in front of the next guy, they let you in.
Oh, well, obviously that's different than a lot of things that we experience here. So much for Southern hospitality, huh? Yeah. Did the students, had they prepared? I know that, George, you said you had kind of studied it from afar. With the age of the internet, did they really delve into it, or did they have a culture shock also?
Well, I think some of the members of the group had taken the language course at Western Kentucky in Bowling Green in preparation, and we did have some faculty members who were from China that were on the trip with us. So we had not only the courses that were offered by the local Chinese, but we had our own built-in interpreter, and it was very interesting to get his insights as to how much China has changed in the last 30 years.
Well, and that's terrific. You had a personal tour guide, if you will. That's excellent. Now, the reason there is this connection with WKU is there is the Confucius Institute, which obviously is our reference to China. What is that at WKU? What is that? Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, the Confucius Institute is a collaboration between Hanban, which is an organization in China, and universities around the world. There are, I believe, over 300 Confucius Institutes placed at different universities, and WKU is one of two in Kentucky. UK has the other one. And the purpose of the Confucius Institute is to promote Chinese culture and language. And some of the ways they do that is they sponsor Chinese teachers to come to the U.S. to provide Chinese language courses in the local schools, so in the local elementary schools, junior high, and high schools here in the U.S. So there are, I believe, 16 Chinese teachers through WKU here in this area.
Wow.
And in addition, they just do sponsor programs and community events and things of that nature, trying to make Chinese culture and language more awareness of that in this country and around the world.
Well, and two, it makes it accessible. It doesn't seem like it is so far away. And I think as
Exactly.
Americans, it's important we know our culture, but to see what is beyond those that ocean that lies there. Did the students have a positive? Did they get what they wanted to out of this trip? Did they walk away with the things? Because a lot of times we go into such things with certain expectations. Did they feel like they got everything they wanted to out of it?
I believe they did. The program, when we got to China, when we got to Beijing, the local university there, the North China Electric Power University, was our sponsor, and they planned everything while we were there. And they did an incredible job of making it a very rich experience. So in addition to the classes that we took, for instance, we took a class on Peking opera. Well, that evening, we went to a Peking opera. So some of those types of things that just made the experience so rich. And I know at least I came away thinking there is no way I would have had this rich of experience on my own. It was a tremendous trip.
What led you all to go on this trip, George?
I think to kind of follow up on the first point was that having that large of a group and having the range of one of the members was 13 years old, and then there was a 75-year-old student in the group, and we had professors of emeritus status and visiting professors, and so we had the opportunity to learn from each other. And it was a major interdisciplinary type of event, set in a very different world to the world that we're used to. So it turned into a multi-level experience for all of us.
Well, and those ages, it sounds like it added a lot of differing perspective, and that makes for a very rich experience as well.
Well, and you mentioned about going on the trip. This was the first one from WKU to go to China. So there was a fairly large group, 43 of us, a pretty large across faculty, students, and community people. There are going to be future trips as well. They probably will be smaller, probably have a larger concentration of students in those trips.
Well, we have enjoyed hearing about Beijing, but we're going to have Patty Burtke on momentarily, and we're going to hear a little bit about Argentina.
Yes.
So thank you all so much for sitting with me and discussing Beijing during this part of our segment.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
I'll be right back with Patty Burtke, and we'll be talking about WKU-O going to Argentina. We're back with Patty Burtke. Patty is also with WKU-O, and we're going to talk about her trip to Argentina. Welcome, Patty.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. I'm just so excited. You and I discussed before the cameras started rolling that I have a love for Spanish, Latin, Hispanic culture with my job. And so to hear about a trip that you made from an educational standpoint is really exciting to me. So can you tell us a little bit about the WKU trip to Argentina?
Well, I actually participated in an academic study with the study abroad called KIIS, K-I-I-S, and it's the Kentucky Institute for International Studies. And the trip I went on went to Argentina. And we started out in Buenos Aires, down, in the southern portion on the coastline. And it was absolutely phenomenal. The city is huge. It has over 13 million people, and
Wow.
it has all the things that a city would have. A lot of people think that when you go, south of the equator and you go to Latin American countries, it wouldn't be maybe as developed and things like that. But oh yes, very much so. Rivals any city that we would have in the U.S. And all the services and things like that too. But along with that largeness is the community. It broken up into like community sectors, like a big city would be, and very friendly. Always people very friendly everywhere, and it was phenomenal. The transportation that we were able to use to get from place to place was astounding. very good infrastructure on that. And then the second part of the trip, we went up to the northern regions, and we went to a city named Salta, and it has about 250,000 inhabitants, but it seemed like a small town. Very friendly, very close. One thing that was very interesting about Salta is I maybe saw a few stoplights and things like that, but mostly no stop signs, no nothing.
Oh,
People
wow.
just know how to drive, and never any accidents, you know, things like that. It was really, that part was really different. But as far as the impressions, it was absolutely wonderful. I can't say enough about that. One nice thing about going south in our summer, because I went towards our summer, in the southern hemisphere, it's the beginning of their winter. And so I was still able to wear, you know, my sleeves and maybe a light sweater and things like that and experience it. Very nice weather. It's like a subtropical region. So that, of course, added to just the desire to go there and just stay there.
Sure. How many individuals went on this trip?
This one was rather small. They have very large programs that go to Spain and Europe, but this one we had 8 students, and we had 2 professors that led us, and as I described before, it is academic based, and we were studying things such as the geography, and we were studying language, and then there was another segment that was studying literature, and they were doing detective novels. And
Oh, wow.
when we were in Buenos Aires, the professor was able to take them to a cafe where some of the famous Argentine detective novel writers had made their coffee and started some of their stories. So doing the study abroad, you really get into the culture, because the courses are based around using that area to infuse you into that. And because we're there for so long, it's almost as if you're a local when you leave.
Now, were you there for 3 weeks? How long were you there?
4 weeks.
You were there for 4 weeks,
And
okay.
and all of their programs run between 4 and 5 weeks.
Wow. And what led you to Argentina?
Well, I wanted to do something study abroad, and because I have certification in teaching English as a second language and I have some Spanish background, I wanted to do something that was going to be in one of the Hispanic countries. And so when I was led to the Argentina and they said, hey, we have this and you can do geography and study some of the language, I thought, yes, let's do it. So I did.
Well, can you tell us, in closing here today, about the WKU Study Abroad program and the Global Learning Program?
Okay, study abroad, we have an office dedicated to that. And one thing that I'd like to impress upon today, more so than just my experience, is to get people out there to know that they can be a part of a study abroad. It is very affordable. The program I was on will take students from any college or community college that's in the U.S. and Canada. And there are many other study abroad opportunities that students and community people can take part in. They have a website, you know, through the WKU.edu, go to study abroad. We also have another thing for people who might be kind of timid about leaving the country. We have something called Study Away, and they actually do places in the United States. And all of the study abroad programs that we offer through WKU are anywhere from 10 days to the 5 weeks.
Wow.
And so there's something that will fit anybody. Any academics can be involved in it. It's not just focused, I was geography and Spanish, but there are many more that will fit the needs of many, many majors and minors.
Wow. Well, this, we could have had an entire show, not just 2 segments dedicated to this topic, to these topics today, but you referenced. So individuals can go to WKU.edu for more information.
Yes.
Great.
Yes, and I encourage them to do that.
Well, thank
really.
you so much, Patty. It has been wonderful hearing about Argentina. And from our other friends, it was terrific hearing about Beijing as well.
It is. I think I'm excited about Beijing.
Thank you, Patty.
Thank you.
We'd like to thank WKU-O for underwriting our segment. Please stay tuned for more great community programming.